What's in a name?
Well, some man once said a rose by any other name would smell as sweet.
Who said that?
Oh, I don't know, some struggling playwright.
But think about it. What's in a name? More importantly, what's with all the names? It got us thinking.
And talking.
And whining.
See, what pisses us off is that there are all these weird names for our vaginas.
And not all of them are remotely appealing to the imagination. Like, what kind of name is Axewound or Rat? I mean, who comes up with these things?
Men.
Well, there's Wizard Sleeve, Coochie, Twat.
Fanny, that always grates on me. Minge, Lady Garden.
Down there. Front bum. I mean, come on, people. That's not appetizing at all. And the catch-all, bits.
Fuckhole. I mean, come on. It doesn't get much more misogynistic than that, does it?
Flaps. How to make a girl paranoid?
Punani, whose origin is supposed to be the word for beautiful or splendid flower.
Oh, that's nice.
Twat. Snatch. Clunge.
Hotbox, Groiler, Gee, Muff.
Batcave. Although that implies that it hasn't seen any action for a while.
My personal favourite, Mary.
And of course, the loyal favourite, Pussy.
Hang on, she's been elevated recently.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's give her the respect she deserves.
Wet.
Ass.
Pussy.
Oh my goodness. The whole furore over two women in hip hop speaking about sexual desire and the offence to fragile ears.
Heaven forfend, any woman should claim ownership of her own body and sexuality.
Ladies, let's pour one out for the unfortunate Dr. Shapiro's vagina. I mean, to be in a relationship where it's believed that an aroused, wet vagina has a problem that needs medical attention? I don't know.
We're just supposed to carry the shame, pass it on as it was to us.
There's none of that nonsense in this house. Masturbation is not just for the boys.
I'll drink to that. It should be a part of every woman's beauty regime.
And stress relief toolkit.
They've even named a blusher after it. For that fresh flush of, I've just come really hard look that you can carry around in your handbag.
Well, although...
Oh, it's definitely crack.
That's another name for it.
Yes, it is. But let's face it, girls, it's not always crack.
All the blood. All the blood.
That's right, folks. We folk with uteruses bleed. It's a horrible affliction that hits us every month, like it or not.
Now, sometimes it's a relief, though. The best and worst feeling at the same time. You know, like, oh, yes, there's my period. And, oh, fuck, there's my period.
But let's start with a bit of demystification. Let's dispense with all those horrid names that make you think we're a forgotten realm of some role-playing game. What's inside?
Vagina.
And the outer part.
Vulva.
And the whole kit and caboodle.
Cunt. Oh, wonderful. So yes, the bleeding part. A person with a uterus, as a person with a uterus, we bleed a lot. According to statistics, on average, 3 to 5 days a month.
3 to 5 days? Oh, I'd love it if it were only that.
It did say on average. Just remember, we're all different and that's okay. But yes, 3 to 5 days, 12 months a year, 35 years of our lives.
And because of other people's squeamishness, we need to use sanitary products to mask the fact that our bodies are performing normally.
Sanitary products that we get taxed on.
Sanitary products that cause a fiasco when they're advertised on television, not cloaked in some secret Mother Nature abstract nonsense.
Oh, those ads used to drive me insane. Like, we're meant to believe that our bodies are working against us, that they're there to inconvenience us.
And who bleeds blue water? That's a person that really needs medical attention.
I actually liked that advert that caused 84 people to have a meltdown in Ireland. I thought, it's about time we talked about how we use tampons properly.
What a crime. Women sharing intimate information.
And that's why we're all here.
Every year, we women come together to share with you our stories about our vaginas, vulvas, cunts, our muffs.
Vagina. That's what it was. I had never really thought about it before. It was just there. That thing between my legs. Another body part to be washed in the shower. My monthly nuisance. My lack of legal autonomy. My vagina only ever mattered in relation to men. It was to be protected from men. Kept secret from men. Saved for man. It was never really mine. Attached to me, yes, but not mine. Like any other vagina. So I felt dirty the first time I looked at it. Like I was committing some great moral sin. I felt shame crawling on my skin, guilt swarming inside of me. I mean, someone had to be watching. Surely someone knew, probably God. I was violating myself, but I just wanted to see what the fuss was about. It was shocking at first. Definitely no flower. I mean, this was it. It was not the purity symbol that I had imagined, but it was peach and rose and fuchsia and coral, like paint on a canvas. Colours folded into this delicate overlap. It was a piece of art. This was my renaissance. I mean, it was a complicated type of beautiful. Loud. It's bold, my vagina. I guess I could learn from that. Learn to be as bright as I can be. Become an inconvenience. Hold power in myself. I could learn from that. I'm not afraid to look at it anymore. And I'm not ashamed to call it what it is. It's my vagina. Mine.
Hello. My name is Carmel McCafferty. To my acting friends, McCallion to the bank manager. I'm going to tell you a story that really happened. No frills, no nothing. It really happened. It happened a long time ago. I was 10, almost 11, and my friend Eileen and I decided we'd go to the swimming pool if we could raise the money. So we went round backyards and got lemonade bottles and took it off the shop and got whatever you got for lemonade bottles. And I think it was threepence, I'm not sure. And we raised the money for the two of us to go to the swimming pool that evening. Now there was this thing in the swimming pool called an open session. And if you got on it was great because you got longer than your usual time. And we waited and we saw the open session coming. So we bounded on and got on the pool and jumped and dived about and did all the things we shouldn't been doing, pushing and screaming, and you know, we were 11, 10, going on 11. And towards the end of the session, the big whistle went, and we knew then it was time to get out of the pool. So I got out of the pool, up the steps, And Eileen said, you better get back in the water again. And I said, why? And she says, because something's just happened to you. I think you're dying. And I says, I'm dying? Why am I dying and not you dying? And she says, well, there's blood running down your legs. I think your kidneys fell out. I said, your kidneys fall out? What? Oh dear. Well, we were a wee bit afraid, but we weren't that afraid. So, didn't know what it was. Went over to the man, said to him, the attendant, I think my kidneys fell out in the pill. And the man said, I think you better go home, love. So he says, I says, all right. And there was no pain or, just blood running down my legs. And when you're in the water, you know how blood flows. And got down the stairs and dried myself off and put on whatever it on me. And we went over to McDade's shop across the street because we had a penny left each. And we bought sweets and we headed home. Got to the bottom of our back lane and the blood was sort of trickling a wee bit down my legs. So I would have just wiped it with my skirt or whatever. And went down and my father was sitting reading the Belfast Telegraph. And I says, Daddy. And I says, yes, Carmel, what now? I says, I think my kidneys fell out in the pool. And he went, your kidneys can't fall out, Carmel. You'll be dead. I said, well, something happened to me in the swimming pool and the blood's running down my legs and I don't know what to do. And he says, just you go and tell your mother. My mother at this stage was up the street talking to a woman. They kaylaid my mother and about 6 other women and loved to chat and gossip. So I went up the street and says, Mammy, there's something happened to me in the swimming pool and Eileen thinks my kidneys fell out, but I don't think they did because I'd be dying, wouldn't I? And she says, you'd be dead actually, Carmel. What's wrong with me? I says, well, there's blood in my knickers. And she went, right, okay. Right, me and you'll go down the stairs and go up the back room. Now, the back room is where the 4 girls slept. And we went down and she produced this thing called a sanitary towel. Spare me. I have never seen anything as thick or as big since. It must have been yawn length easily. And maybe not that breadth. Look, they were ugly. And there was 2 loops either end, one on either end. And she gave me this elasticated belt and put it round my waist and told me to hook it on each loop to either side. And then she just decided she would tell me all about my period. Hadn't a clue what a period was. Was too interested in running the streets, playing, carrying on, chivies, whatever. And she told me that it was a gift from Our Lady. And I nearly died of excitement because I thought, am I like one of the 3 children of Fatima? Is Our Lady giving me gifts? And she said, don't be so stupid, Carmel, it's called your period. Every woman gets it, which kind of disappointed me a wee bit. Anyway, that's how I found out about my period. And told Eileen, of course, was swore to secrecy up in the back room to me mammy. No, I wasn't going to tell nobody. Told Eileen, I said, you're going to get it. Every woman gets it. We all get it. And Eileen was going, it's not your kidneys then. I was going, not my kidneys, it's my whim. I have a whim, you have a whim. Found us all out up in the back room. Anyway, that's how I got my period. And my kidneys are perfect. Thank you very much. So, to everybody out there at this moment in time who is having a period, I don't care who or what you are, having your period, God help you. Don't have it anymore. Women all's gone. It's great. Wow. Give her a luck. As a matter of fact, I told my daughter the same story, about gift from Our Lady. And she was having a particularly bad period one day. And she says, Mommy, did you keep the receipt for that gift? And I was going, what gift? She says, from Our Lady, because I want to give it back. Which I thought was quite funny at the time. But anyway, to all my sisters out there, whatever you are, whoever you are, see you in the chemist. Ooh. Bye.
I love children. Truly, they are some of my favourite people. So much so that a large part of my work in life has been dedicated to entertaining, educating and playing with them. But much like home ownership, the life I have chosen is not compatible with having one of my own, so I'm happy to rent them on a short-term basis. So when I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 31, I didn't have the heartbreak that so many people who are diagnosed and want babies have. For me, it was just extremely painful and uncomfortable, and it was getting worse every cycle. But at least the fact it was obstructing my womb's functioning wasn't an issue. 30 to 50% of women with endometriosis are infertile. Now, I always knew that periods were painful. You know, it was the curse of Eve. I mean, personally, I was never told that it was the curse of Eve. My parents didn't go in for that kind of thinking, but generally in the culture, it was accepted that periods were painful and that they were to be borne in silence and without fuss. Pre-menstrual syndrome was the term for any perceived complaints or irrationality that women displayed in relation to their monthly visitation. I knew PMS was a bad thing to have. You could be accused of being angry or irritable or irrational or overreacting and be moody and a drama queen. To have the accusation of being on your period was something to be ashamed of. I mean, no one wanted to be confronted with that. I mean, it was disgusting to bring it up. It was repellent to normal people. It was abnormal to be a woman rather than the norm, the ordinary, the average, the male. Sorry, am I overreacting? Being hysterical, perhaps? The term hysterectomy, the removal of the female reproductive organs, originally comes from a diagnosis of hysteria, a genuine medical condition that the American Psychiatric Association only dropped from its list of diseases in 1952. The symptoms of which included anxiety and sexual desire, insomnia, fluid retention, heaviness in the abdomen, irritability, loss of appetite for food or sex, paradoxically, sexually forward behaviour, and a tendency to cause trouble for others. Basically, until 1952, you could have your womb removed because you were having a shitty period. So, you know, I thought that being doubled up in pain with tears running down your face, wincing, crying out in agony for a week was just the price I paid for being a woman. And then those other pains throughout the rest of the month that gradually got worse during my 20s. Ooh. I was diagnosed with IBS and anxiety and depression. I always had packs of ibuprofen with me, no matter what. Waking up in the morning and immediately downing two was part of my regular morning routine. I just got used to being in pain. And then I was diagnosed with endometriosis. Now, the average time it takes for endo to be diagnosed is 7.5 years, and it only took me 5. Now, I'd never heard of it before I was diagnosed. And I had my first operation to remove it when I was 32, and my second when I was 38, which also removed a huge endometriosis cyst, which was the size of a grapefruit, from my right fallopian tube. Like, it was so big, I actually lost weight as a result. Now, see, what happens with endo is that every month, the hormones which control the menstrual cycle activate the womb's lining to produce a cushion. Now, this cushion is to stick the egg that travels from one of the fallopian tubes every 28 days. It's like to stick it firmly to the lining of the womb so it can wait safely and securely to be activated by a sperm. And when the egg is impregnated, the lining provides a cushion for the egg to divide and grow, housing the developing fetus in a safe and protected way. It's very, very important. And it's very, very sticky. And every month, this lining grows. And usually, it's flushed out of the womb when menstruation occurs, along with the unfertilized or unviable impregnated egg. And everything is flushed clean to wait for the next cycle. But what happens with endo is that sometimes bits of this lining inside the womb float out. They begin to escape. How? No one knows. Why? No one knows. How can it be stopped from doing that? No one knows. And each month, it's triggered by the hormones to grow again. And therefore, it spreads further. All around the uterus, the fallopian tubes, the intestines, kidneys, liver, bladder, everywhere. It's been found in the brain. And because it's outside of the womb, the hormone bath that's meant to flush it away doesn't work. So each month it continues to grow, and each month it travels further around the body, and each month it sticks to more blood vessels and to more bits of the bladder and the bowels and the diaphragm and the appendix, and sticks bits of your intestine to itself, or your ovaries to your fallopian tubes, or or bits of your stomach to itself, and it sticks to everything. It's very, very sticky. And when those things that it's stuck to move and pulse as they are supposed to do, say you've had a dinner and you begin to digest that dinner, and then your intestine starts the movement to process the food, and the parts that are stuck together with the endometriosis will rip and tear, causing ruptures, bleeding, cysts, scar tissue every single month. And it grows and sticks and grows and sticks and causes constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, bladder symptoms, painful sex, back pain, leg pain. Why? Well, theories suggest could be retrograde menstruation, genetics, faulty immune systems, something to do with the blood system or lymphatic system, but none of these theories fully explain why endometriosis happens. And there is so much that's unknown. A study of 13,500 women by a BBC research project into endo in 2019 reported 50% of people with female reproductive organs dealing with the illness have had suicidal thoughts. Most said that the condition has badly affected their education, career, sex life, mental health, and relationships. It's estimated that 1 in 10 women in the UK have it. That's the same rate as diabetes. Why don't we know as much about it as we do about diabetes? Well, often across society, women's bodies are seen as an inconvenience, with their symptoms and health concerns not taken seriously enough. You see, most of our understanding of ailments comes from the perspective of men. It's overwhelmingly based on studies of men carried out by men. Like in the US, which produces a lot of medical research, research trials weren't required by the National Institute of Health to include women at all until 1993. And traditionally, this was justified by the idea that, get this, women's bodies were seen to be too complex due to fluctuating hormones. So clinical trials just often excluded them. And a lot of funding went to conditions which either affected both men and women or just men. For example, less than 2.5% of publicly funded research is dedicated solely to reproductive health, despite the fact that 1 in 3 women in the UK will suffer from a reproductive or gynecological health problem. There's 5 times more research into erectile dysfunction, which affects 19% of men, than into pre-menstrual syndrome, which affects 90% of women. How can there have been no research done into it when the suspected rates of women who experience this is 1 in 10, both in the UK and worldwide? No one knows. Though it could be an idea to explore the fact that patriarchy is the dominant system of power in our culture and women's pain and discomfort is of little interest to it. In fact, it might be in its interest to keep women distracted. That's just me going on again, isn't it? And there was one study done. In 2013, a study was done to look into the attractiveness of women with rectovaginal endometriosis, and with the objective to evaluate the physical attractiveness in women with and without endometriosis. Its results found that a total of 31 out of 100 women in the rectovaginal endometriosis group were judged as attractive or very attractive, compared with just 8 out of 100 in the peritoneal and ovarian endometriosis group, and only 9 out of 100 in the group of subjects without endometriosis. So I could be like a whole 20% more attractive, depending on the type of endometriosis I have. The problem is, I didn't even know there were different types of endometriosis until I read that study.
My very first job was in a shirt factory office, and I loved it. And then I sold bathrooms and kitchens, and I liked that as well. Then I had a couple of youngsters and stopped work for a couple of years. And when I went back into the workforce, I spent a year typing summonses for the RUC. And that's when something happened that it altered me for definite. There was a child murdered in England in a caravan park, and she was around 8 years old. She was called Nicole, and it was 6 o'clock, the tea time news, and the images of her little body in a ditch covered in a sheet, taken from far away, disturbed me in ways that I don't understand, beyond it being horrifying anyway. She had been strangled and sexually assaulted. Yeah, I was changed after knowing that. So fast forward maybe a year, and it's kind of mid to late 80s. Now, the woman I was beginning to meet at that time, the woman that I was kind of working with and linking with, they knew all about stuff. They knew stuff about everything. They knew about feminism, and I didn't. They knew about justice and equality and politics, and my father was the one who talked about that stuff. And I remember they hated housework, and I flippin' loved it. I loved kind of cleaning. I remember also they ate brown rice and drank herbal tea. I didn't even know those things existed. And they were mostly Republicans. And I also remember there was definitely one lesbian. Well, maybe two. And I thought they all lived in London. And these women that I was beginning to know, they talked about books. They talked about books like Our Bodies, Ourselves. They talked about books like Fat is a Feminist Issue. Nobody and none of them were reading Catherine Cookson. Nobody cared about Tilly Trotter, who went down the mine and then later married the Lord of the Manor, except me. And it became really, really clear to me at that time that I knew absolutely nothing. These women knew everything, and I knew nothing. And I was on the same path as them, and I just remember being affronted and keeping my head down and thinking, I hope they never find out that I know nothing. And even my biggest secret that I hoped they never would discover was that I was a Protestant. But as we kind of went along, it became, there was one thing that became abundantly clear that we had in common. you know, we had this one thing in common, and that was like our fannies. And little did I know at that time just how much we were going to be talking about them, because we all joined a 6-week course called Self-Focus for Women. And like, it's the late 80s, you have to understand, like, a workshop to me before this was, my father was an electrical contractor who had a workshop. I didn't know about other types of workshops, so we were all about the workshops. We had workshops about everything, but this one was all about Self-Focus for Women. I had no idea what it was. And there we were, I was out there as well. We were ploughing new furrows. We were liberating ourselves, like whatever that meant at the time. But anyway, the 6-week course, week 1, body focus. So we talked about our bodies and the hang-ups we had about our bodies. We talked about women's bodies. We were talking about our bodies. And the homework, yes, there was homework. You had to go home. Homework with specific instructions. You had to go home, you had to strip naked, and you had to look at your body in a full-length mirror and come back the next week and bring your notes and talk about what you saw. Well, mortified. And I remember standing in front of a full-length mirror, or maybe just like a half-length mirror, and I was on a chair or something, but I remember thinking like that I looked a bit like a continental quilt, only like less Swedish. Week 2, getting to know your vagina. Well, the instruction this week was to draw your vagina, and when you're finished, and the instruction was draw your vagina, and when you're finished, stick it on the wall. Now, I was that far through, it took me a wee moment to realise she meant stick the drawing on the wall. So I was first finished, actually. And over I went and stuck my drawing on the wall. And I can still hear the laughter as we gathered in the Vagina Gallery to have a look at each other's drawings. Now, couple of them at least were like proper illustrations, like they from a medical journal or something. But kind of freaks were those women who could draw in that detail. And I couldn't believe the detail. And then some others, were detailed enough. And lots of them had like a little butterbean thing on them that clearly mine didn't. And mine just stood out because it looked like it had been drawn by a 4-year-old child. And I, blessed the facilitator on the night because she spared my blushes. She didn't exactly say who drew this. But I think when everybody else had owned up to drawing the rest of them, there was only me left. But she spared my blushes. And the laughter from then, I can still hear in my vagina nightmares. And actually, several years later, might even been many years later, I was having some abnormal cells nuked in the lady garden. And I remember asking the consultant exactly where was she going to be nuking me. And she, you'll never believe it, she handed me a piece of paper and a pencil and said, draw your vagina, I'll be back in a minute to show you, while she headed off to do something else in the department. I was completely traumatised because I obviously re-stimulated from the Vagina Gallery workshop. I couldn't even think what it looked like. But anyway, I drew it. And I think it was better than the first one. But anyway, she laughed. She giggled and said, seriously, Dan, that's what you think your vagina looks like? But anyway, and I have to say, on the occasion that I would have to go and visit somebody in Elton Galvin Hospital, I still have this, I kind of imagine that somewhere in the gynae department, they have pinned my drawing of my vagina up. And it's really embarrassing because not only now would the people in the hospital maybe know me as the woman who fainted with her right tit clamped in the mammogram machine, I am also the woman who can't draw my own vagina. And for anybody who knows the hospital, when you park, over where you park and you're walking toward the hospital, every time I walk in, I think there's a drawing in there of my vagina. Anyway, week 3, vagina stories. So this week we had to give our vaginas like a backstory and give them a little personality. And I remember now, you know, mine, like, my vagina ran a fish and chip shop up in Bishop Street, and she was known for her bouffant hair and her battered fish. And the homework that week was to write a poem about your vagina and share it the following week. But there was a little like addition to the end of the homework that week, and it said, you know, write your poem, bring it in next week and read it, and don't forget your mirror. Anyway, week 4, the theme was exploring your vagina, so naturally I showed up in the hiking boots. Jesus wept. After we read the poems, we were instructed to take off our pants and straddle our mirrors. I kid you not. That was said in a room that I was in with a group of other women in a circle. Take off your pants and straddle your mirror. Now, 2 things I remember about that. One was that one woman didn't wear pants. What the fuck was all that about? And 2, straddle your mirror. I wasn't sure, like straddle your mirror like you're writing it or what. But anyway, I had the wit to wait till somebody else went first, and then I just kind of fell into line after that. Week 5. I'm kind of getting re-stimulated telling you about this, but week 5 was ultimate self-loving. That was the theme. Learning how to masturbate properly. Yep. It was defined and discussed at length, firstly in pairs and then back in the whole group. And I wasn't the only one uncomfortable now that night. There was another woman I remember kind of been a bit reluctant. But see, by the stage, I was wheeling out like an alter ego that before I even knew what an alter ego was. And she was much more cool with all the kind of dirty chat than I could ever be. And she was really liberated and free and very much in touch with her glorious fandango. And yeah, so that's how I got through that one. And the homework was go home, run a bath, light a candle, and masturbate. Come back the following week with your notes and describe it to the group. So, final week, week 6. I haven't a clue because I didn't show up. I have no idea if anybody else did. But there you go. Now, these days, my vagina lives a more secluded life and she still enjoys a wee run out to Buncrana for a poke. But other than that, she has very little to report.
Island is a woman. She opened up and displayed her power, declared it on stone and in wood. When her fertile body swelled, forming hills and mountains, the men held her down. They refused to let her stand. They wanted her pliant on her back. As they pushed her legs apart, she screamed in anger, and her children gushed forth, leaving her warm salt sea for the cold, briny ocean. Some washed up on foreign shores, others drifted to the seafloor, never to take a breath, never to be held in Ireland's loving arms.
I'm just tired. I'm tired of explaining just who I am. Tired of saying, yes, I'm all woman, because can't you see, that's who I am. Tired of saying I'm not the paedophile, the sexual predator that the TERFs, gender critical feminists would have you believe. When I go to the toilet like everybody else, I go for a pee. Tired of being told that the LGB should have no part of the tea, that Sylvia and Marsha P were just drag queens after all, when most trans women know there was so much more. Tired of being told I'm just an has-been gay who couldn't make the grade on the day. Tired of being told not to sing and dance in the street. Tired of being told to just fade away. Tired of not being given shelter in a woman's space after being beaten and raped by a bastard who got away with it scot-free because they had the gall to tell him I was not tea. Tired of being black and trans, beaten to death by a gang of policemen who proudly say they are upholding the law. Just another weekly statistic on the same old killing floor. Tired of being sold by a two-timing pimp as a special treat to a closeted creep who wants a blowjob in his car, scared in case his macho friends find out, punches me in the face and calls me some kind of fucking freak whore. As a Wayne Needs Manly streetcar racer, he roars. Tired of being told that the XX and the XY are the only norm and nothing else could ever be. Tired of being forced to be something that I could never attain by the demigods of the patriarchy. Tired of being laughed at and bullied at school. Tired of being told, you're a boy, you shouldn't be in the girls' line. You're a girl, you're not allowed in the boys' line, you're just a fool. Tired of being told, behave yourself, don't break the rules, and everything will be fine. Tired of being told, well, you will grow out of it, it's just a fad. Tired of being told, you can't do that, it's bad. Tired of being at work, having had to use the disabled toilet yet again. And if I do anything else, then I'll get a weirdo. If you do that anymore, you'll be down the road. That's what I know for a certainty, I'll be told. Tired of being called an abomination by people who say they follow God's way. Tired of being told I'm under the devil's sway. Told to revert and repent, use conversion therapy. Be welcomed, brought back into the fold. But I looked at religion with its fake piety, its pride and its gold, and think of all the millions it has murdered with its lust for power and its greed. And if I'm to be damned, I'll be damned for just being me. Tired of watching my brothers and sisters take that final step, the lethal tablet, the leap from a bridge, just a slash of the wrist to end all of the pain. So yes, I am tired. So very tired. I'm just so tired of forever walking in the rain.
Someone once told her, in order to re-find happiness, she had to seek out that moment when she stopped being honest, stopped listening to, stopped liking herself. She tried to think back, but always with the same results. She'd been lying to herself her whole life. Little things, insignificant things, big things, crazy things, and then forgot them all. To the casual observer, she had all the appearances of being fairly held together. Confident and outgoing, charming when she needed to be. If you asked her, she'd tell you candidly how she liked and loathed people in equal amounts. People fascinated her, but always from a distance. A decidedly solitary individual. She preferred her own company. It had always been that way. She could never see how anyone would appreciate her little ways. Alone, she'd never have to admit to the things that kept her afloat. Alone was never having to explain why the packet of biscuits disappeared along with her coffee, or how her bank balance only ever seemed to look healthy one day a month when she'd breathe a little easier before kissing it all goodbye just as quick. Her life was a series of practice gestures, and people were mirrors, reflecting the lumps and bumps she tried her best never to see. Her belief was that no one could ever possibly love her broken and damaged bits. Screwed up pieces of her
that kept her together. Bravado played a huge part in her philosophy, along with the pursuit of absolute honesty. She developed a theory of the places people had to be honest with themselves, the places where it's impossible to escape the truth of our own bodies. She narrowed it down to 3, no more, no less. The first, she decided, was on the toilet. A deeply personal act of elimination, both cleansing in the physical and psychological, laced with a weird sense of guilty pleasure. That two-stone lighter feeling that no one can deny feels oh so terribly good. Clothes part in the middle in opposite directions, exposing the soft underbelly to one's gaze as it protrudes in a pod that hovers over the legs. Like it or not, you've got to be okay with the fact that it is impossible to hold your stomach in while you try to push it out. The physics of it all don't work that way. Without the need to feel awkward or apologise, safe in the knowledge that all sins get flushed away. The second, she figured, is in masturbation. The most honest sex one can ever have. Not the most exciting, granted, but honesty doesn't always equal excitement. Having discovered the virtues of masturbation, she created herself a rule. Anyone who says they don't engage in a little self-pleasure is either lying or stupid, and not to be trusted either way. In her opinion, all humans are wankers, and if we could only just embrace this, the world would be a much more contented place. In a drunken conversation one night, she reached the conclusion that no matter how depraved the sexual antics with a lover, the sexual deviancy of a wank was on a whole other level. Her solitary self-fuck, she reckoned, had the special kind of power to take her mind and body to the exact places she knew by rote. Uninhibited, unashamed, and emancipated. A survival tool, if you will. And next to nicotine, the only thing keeping her sane. The third and final place she mused was in the balmy sprinkling of the shower. Now, not the bath, the shower. This was her sanctuary. This place was where she cleaned herself of the toil of the day. The stresses and worries simply melt away. In this place, she is naked and unafraid to be naked, inescapably, unabashedly free of shame, cleansed and reborn, refreshed and renewed. Rain, finger-tipped water kisses dancing on warming skin, wrapped in imagined embrace, wishing somehow the gentle spray was a lover's arms, surrounding and consuming, lost in sweet surrender. Of course, you could also read this another way. These places were all the places where she was alone. Intimacy and honesty was only intimacy and honesty with herself. No more, no less.
Exploitation, a canker on the skins of babies, a wrong to be righted by a band of pink ladies. Full-time workers, unpaid, volunteering, shining lights into corners. Resilient, persevering, because everyone is someone's child. To be loved and cherished, not abused or vilified. Our job, reuniting, no matter colour or creed. Taking back the exploited, denying the greed.
Women unchained, women unbound, women rising up from the underground, women free, don't faff around. We are strong, won't be put down. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, with the sound of the women unbound. Whoa. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound.
unchained. Isn't it a pity? Denied the vote in Vatican City. Women raped, then charged with a crime. Men have the power all of the time. Isn't it degrading, appalling, disgusting? Women undermined, mailroom shines.
Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound.
The Society of Pink Boots shook the industry to its roots. Beer brewing no longer has a gender, albeit the transition still tender. Equality and sharing cause no pain and can be replicated again and again. Education is key, raised to make tea. Now we celebrate professional careers of women who brew. Quality drink for the masses, whose perfectly brewed ale, no longer the sole remit of the male, is kicking ass at the point of sale.
Rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound.
Pink sorry revolution that is the Galabi gang fighting for women's rights on the barrier lines. India's women claim conviction as victims of rape that no violator should expect to escape. Show me his balls, I will personally castrate.
Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound.
Everybody, we raised up issues, stamped our feet, stamped the letters, walked the streets, carried out placards, pledged petitions, fought injustice. We accept our mission. We are women unchained, women unbound, women rising up from the underground, women free, don't flap around. We are strong, won't be put down. Rise up, rise up, rise up, yeah. It's the sound of the women unbound. Yeah, rise up, woo, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Once more, we are women unchained, women unbound, women rising up from the underground, women free, don't flap around. We are strong, won't be put down. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Woo. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. It's the sound of the women unbound. Woo, yeah.
Oh, it started up in the sky. It was like a bird. It had took off. And in no time, I was up there flying to my new destination. But I can't forget till this day the fear that gripped me inside that bird. It was like a gazelle when it's running and running and running for its life, being chased by lions. That's how I felt. I didn't know where I was going. I mean, I knew it was a place called Belfast, but I didn't really know Belfast. Oh boy, Belfast. Belfast is different. Different than South Africa in so many ways. But here I was, 20 years ago in Belfast, being the only black woman where everybody was looking at you and asking you, what about your love? Oh, it was cold. How can I forget the cold? I felt it in my bones. It was just soaking me. The rain. But as I walked up and down Belfast, I kept seeing Nelson Mandela's face on the peace wall. There it was, majestic, revenant.
I kind of sat down and thought about Mandela. I thought about the prison that he was in. His prison had 4 walls and it had a tiny window where he could look out. I knew why I kept thinking about Mandela. It's because I also was in a prison. I was in a prison, but my prison didn't have any doors or windows. It was just a prison, mental torture, day in and day out. I had no family to talk to. I had no friends to tell how I was really feeling. But then I didn't have to focus on myself because I had a baby. I was having a baby. First, the doctors wanted in there. In my culture, men don't look in there. You close, you're in there like a shell. Like something, like a creature from the sea. I kept closing and opening, and they just told me just to relax. It was going to be okay. Can you imagine in a foreign land where I had no family, just these people, strangers I didn't know, poking me in there? It was frightening. First, it was something that looked like a hook. It went in and pulled something that came out like a mucus. And then the hand followed of the doctor, and he turned the herd. And the nurse kept coming in and telling me that it was 2 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 8 centimeters. And then she got excited. She says, "Oh, I have never delivered a black baby before. This is my first." But I wasn't worried about that. I was just worried about my down there because it was painful. Then the moment came, everyone was looking down there as if they were looking at an animal coming out of a sea. It arrived. The baby had just arrived. I must have been unconscious because I don't remember it coming from me, especially from my down there. It was huge and it had hair. That's all I heard, it had hair. In Africa, when a child has hair, that means that it has brains. It's going to be intelligent. But little did I know that my down there was going to be changing forever. The pain, the tearing, the stitches, the color, the smell. I didn't know that I needed my mom here. But my mom wasn't here. I was a mom. So I had to just chin up and wash it, as you do. If somebody had told me that this journey was like the journey of the Magi, when they were carrying the 3 gifts and looking for the king, they didn't know where the king was. They only had the trust that the star was going to bring them. It wasn't a pleasant journey for the Magi, and neither was it for me. Because for the next 17 years, I had to have the conversations with my down there. Oh, I've had conversations, okay. I told it secrets. I trusted it. I looked at it in the mirror and talked to it, and I said, "You have to be with me throughout this journey in this foreign land." So I can say that my down there, it's a woman. It's a black, angry woman. And I am telling you now, you cannot mess about with it. It will not be messed about with. I have come all the way from Africa to Northern Ireland, and I am here. And my down there is here to stay. And don't ever ask me or it when it's going home again. It is home. It has arrived.
Hello, who is this?
Is this the line for women?
Oh yes, sorry, this is the lesbian line. How may I help you?
Can I talk to you about something?
Of course, how may I help?
Is there anybody listening in?
At this point, I looked around and I realised I was taking this phone call in the middle of Botanic Avenue in Belfast. No, there's no one listening, but look, I'm not in the office, so maybe it's just not quite as confidential as it could be.
Does that mean I can't talk to you?
Oh no, of course you can. If you need to talk.
My name is Joan, and I'm 72. I'm widowed for 6 years, and I have a friend, and she's been widowed for 3 years. We've been friends for years, and our husbands were friends. Over the last few months, we have got very close. Do you know what I mean?
Do you mean you have feelings for this woman that's more than friendship? I was trying to be as tactful as possible, just in case it was wrong. I didn't want to scare the life out of the 70-year-old woman. I was hopping from one foot to the other and hoping that nobody could hear this conversation.
Yes, dear. I don't want to shock you. I know it's terrible what we are doing, and against God. I'm a born-again Christian, and if anyone found out, we wouldn't be able to go back to our church.
There's nothing terrible about what you're feeling. These feelings are natural. How does your friend feel?
She feels the same. We have tried to stop, but we just can't. And when we touch each other, it's so different than when we were with our husbands. We feel like we've wasted so many years.
Did you have children while you were married? And were you happily married?
Oh yes, dear. I had 4 children, and I had a good, hard-working man who never raised his hand to me. And my friend had 2 children with a good man too.
Well, don't look at it that your life was pointless. You have your family, a good home, good memories. Just think that this is a new chapter in your life. Another chance to love. That can't be bad.
No, but if the church found out, that would mean that we couldn't go back. We were nearly caught the other day.
How? Whilst thinking, what on earth were they doing? And where were they doing it? I was afraid in case you were going into too much detail.
My friend came round and we went upstairs and we were getting undressed. And we heard the back door open. And it was a pastor. And he called up the stairs. Well, both of us were undressed, so we quickly got dressed, and I came down and I said we'd been trying on clothes. I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Joan, all I can say, in my age, you weren't doing anything wrong. God has given us all the ability to love. And for man to love man, woman to love woman. Everyone has their own take on it. If you're happy, then it's up to you to decide what you want to do.
It's nice to be able to talk to someone that understands.
You can ring me any time, Joan. We're always here to help.
One other thing I want to ask you.
Oh, aye? What's that?
Well, we wanted to get some toys.
Toys? Toys? Toys, right. At that point, I was feeling like a 15-year-old schoolgirl going through a sex education class.
Where can we get them?
Well, you could try Hans Summers.
What's that, and where is it?
Oh, it's a shop that sells sex toys, and it's at the back of Castle Court in Belfast. At this point, I was standing in the shop doorway, trying not to be heard.
Will they tell me what we need and show me how to use them?
Oh, aye, of course they will, aye. They're very, very helpful, so they're. Thinking, please don't ask me, please.
Thank you for your help. I feel much better now. You must be shocked talking to an old hen like me.
Oh no, I think it's lovely. It's made me smile, and I'm very happy that you found each other at last.
Bye-bye, my dear, and thank you.
It did make me smile. When I went into work that day, I had a big smile on my face. And from time to time, I think about Joan and her friend. Is she happy, and are they still together? And I smile.
This piece was written last year in 2019 when I was 33 weeks pregnant, and it's called A Letter to My Unborn Child, a true story. I have to be honest. I never wanted you. You were never a conscious thought in my head. But let me explain. I didn't want to be a mother. I did not want to be tied down. I wanted to be able to take off and go to the beach whenever I felt like it. Untethered. And anyway, I was too angry to be a mother. I'd be terrible at it. No way could I do what my own mum did. She was amazing. She was totally devoted to the role, there for us all the time. She put up with everything we threw at her. I couldn't do what she did. She gave up everything. Her job, her friends. And I'm selfish too, you see. I want to be able to get in the car and go, leave, whenever I feel like it. I couldn't live a life of asking for permission like she had to. Can I use the car? Can I use the phone? Can I have the PIN code for the TV, please? Well, can you put the PIN code into the TV so I can watch it, please? Can I have some money to get the Wayne's clothes and food? Can you please let me sleep? She gave up all she was to keep us safe. Her voice, her choices, her body. Our home was no place for children. There were guns and pornography and so much fucking drink. I don't have eyes in the back of my head like she did either, and yet for all of her sacrifice, all of her sleepless nights and hours spent at home watching and listening, she still couldn't keep the monster at bay. I was 10 years old the night he stood in my room in the dark. My father, the monster from under the bed made real, naked and insistent. A demented grin bloodied from the carcass of the box of red wine he'd ingested in the living room, where he'd left his gun and his pornography. I was stuck. I never wanted to be stuck again. No one person or place or thing would ever keep me anywhere. I would be untethered and do what I wanted, when I wanted, go wherever, whenever. The intoxicating freedom of it all. But what no one tells you is that there's no such thing as freedom when you don't have a safe place to call home. And being untethered, I unravelled. I ran too much and drank too much and took too many risks and got too angry, and I fell in love too easy with men who'd say I was too easy. The last time I shared my house with a man, he put his hands around my throat and I swore I would never live with another man ever again. So fuck it all. Get me to a beach. I dream of living in a hut by the sea. That reliable hum of the ebb and the flow. I can float weightless with my eyes closed and pretend I'm flying. And then there's the salt. Ancient, magic salt. Abrasive, exfoliating, it strips back the deadness. It preserves and heals. Salt keeps the devil away. And then, like something out of some stupid, unwritten fairy tale, I met a man on the sea. A man with a warm smile and kind eyes and the gentlest soul. The first time we spoke, we were on adjacent kayaks paddling around Inch Island in Loch Swilly. And then there were the dolphins at Malin Head and the cold swims at Kinnigo Bay. Salt keeps the devil away. This man brought me home. Not a this'll do for now home, but a forever home. Somewhere I could breathe and just be. An anchor I could float away from and do and think and say and feel whatever I wanted. And I was able to see things for the first time. The reason that I didn't want to be a mother was because I have always been a mother. I had to look after everyone else when my mum finally broke under the weight of years of sleepless nights and fear and abuse. I was tired of the worry and the pain and so overwhelmed by it that I'd never considered the joy to be had in parenthood at all. And here, now, I am home, safe, permanent. This is what true freedom feels like. I have covered the walls of the living room in floor to ceiling yellow paint. Get that Dulux banana split on those walls. I want to bathe in that sunshine because there have been too many dark days and we are going nowhere. And we got a cat, a mess of a thing with no teeth and a wonky leg. He needed eye surgery, and when we took him home, he didn't poo for days. We cheered and wept when he used the litter tray for the first time. I've learned the strange joy of wiping weepy eyes and mushing up food and cleaning up poo. And here you are. And I can't wait to bring you home. You'll like it there. It's handy to town and the backyard gets the sun all day. It's only a short drive to the beach. It smells of coffee and Yankee candles. Sometimes of ammonia and sawdust from the cat's litter tray, but never of whiskey. And it's quiet. You'll never have to hold your breath behind closed doors or lock yourself in the bathroom to cry. And there's no wine rack. No Merlot to stain the lips and teeth of adults. No alcohol at all. No guns. No pornography. No monsters under the bed. No eggshells to cut your feet on. You see, I know now that you have been growing in me for so much longer than 33 weeks. You were there in the tears I dried from my mother's face and the songs I sang my sister to sleep with. You were there in the dull lapping of water against a plastic kayak by Inch Island and in Hoover bags full of cat hair. You are in the safe glow of yellow paint. You are born out of the fierce love of your mother, and you are the salt on your father's skin.
I celebrated my 45th birthday this year, you know. 40 fucking 5. I'll never get over it. Well, not in a self-hating type of a way, you understand. More in a, I really never expected to make it this far type of a way. Mainly because I was an early days raver from like the early to the mid-90s. I pretty much missed absolutely everything between then and 2015. Anyway, eventually I gave up the raving and I took up the lingerie. Random, I know, but bear with me. So I had a few extra pound kicking around now that I wasn't paying the party trades mortgage, you know. One day I was in town and I saw this swanky, and I mean fancy, new lingerie shop had opened up on North Street, and it had the most jaw-dropping bikini set in the window, you know. And I loved it. Now I did all that. Oh God, that's gorgeous, but I couldn't be caught dead in a bikini, not at my age. Bullshit. And I didn't buy it, you know. But it haunted me. It haunted my daydreams like the kitten that you don't pick at the animal shelter, you know, that way. Anyway, I tells my friend Jazz about it now. Jazz is gas. Absolutely love her to bitch. She is a rebel in every way. I mean, this woman, she would put Miriam Margolyes to shame with how much she just does not give a fuck what anybody thinks of her, you know. And she says to me, well, go and get it. I says, no, God, I couldn't be caught dead in an absolutely beautiful bikini that I reckon would make me look like a Nubian goddess. Anyway, where am I going to wear it? Fucking fawn. And she says, way with words, you know, this woman. She says to me, well, what about getting caught living in it? And well, that was that. The next day, I went down and I got the bikini set, 97 quid. Jazz nearly hit the deck when she heard the price, but anyway, there you go. Got it, and it turns out that it was just absolutely wild looking on me. Don't ask. Anyway, still, that wee shop became just my favourite place in the world. I would visit there a good couple of times a month. I mean, I could hardly ever afford anything out of it, but see, when I could, God, when I could, I would just bring me spoils home and I would just spend ages standing there and looking at myself in the mirror, you know, feeling amazing. Absolutely amazing for the first time in my life. And it was really nothing to do with how I might look to anybody else. It was nothing like that. It was really like I realised, like I felt that it was palpably true, that I really am a divine being, having a physical experience, you know what I mean? Now I know that comes across a wee bit acid guru in the psytrance tent sort of a way, but that's really how it was. Anyway, it was around Christmas time, a couple of years ago, and I was in there buying myself a wee early Christmas present, and I had Jazz with me, and we were up at the counter, and I turned to Jazz, and not entirely seriously, I waved my new set in front of her and I said, "See me, I fucking love being a woman. Finally." Well, that was a bit of a mistake. For then she starts. She takes great umbrage at my suggestion that dear bras and knicker sets have helped me fall in love with my womanliness, you know. And she starts going on and on and on. "It's a shallow type of love," she said. "I can assure you it is not," says I. Anyway, that didn't stop her. On and on, all the way home, over dinner, over a few spliffs, and of course, once we get the wee spliff in, I'm feeling a wee bit pensive, and she starts to feel the itch, you know, in her healing hands. She reckons she's got these healing hands, you know. So she starts waving her hands all around me. And she says, "I really think it's so fucking sad that we spend so many years of our lives hating being women." Mm-hmm. See, I can feel that in your energy system. See, there you go. Blocked in the first and second chakras. I could have told you that 5 miles ago. "Feel what?" says I. "Shame. Absolute shame," says Jazz. "I've no bloody shame, sure you know me, Jazz. Listen, if you want to get rid of that shame, you're going to have to pinpoint exactly where the shame began." Grand, I'll pinpoint it in my bed, I said, and then I tottered off to my bed before it got a wee bit too deep, as it was wont to do with Jazz every once in a while, you know. Now, as much as I rolled my eyes, I did go to bed thinking about it that night, you know. Shame. A middle-aged ex-raver like me? No. But maybe I did feel shame. Deep down, subconscious, like. I mean, there was that whole palaver about starting my period when I was 11 years of age and hiding stained knickers all over the house and not being sure how I was going to break the news to my mum and dad that I was dying of an internal hemorrhage. No, not at all. And then there was that whole time when swimming lessons started in P6 and I had pubic hair and hair under my arms, and I didn't realise there was anything at all weird about this until we were in the pool and the teacher clocks my armpits and she just couldn't hide her disgust. I mean, it couldn't be. Oh, sure, I'm well over that. Anyway, I'm halfway between sleep and waking when all of a sudden it, bam, hits me like a wrecking ball and I'm sitting bolt upright in my bed and Nellie. Oh, Nellie. Oh, Nellie Simpson was an old doll that lived at the bottom of my street when I was wee. When I say old doll, she was probably only in her 50s. She was a rocket. I mean, she had her back garden all done up with these hedges, and as weans we used to love running in and out of there because the place honestly looked like the secret garden, you know. There was no better place to play hide and seek. I loved it, but she didn't love it. Oh no. In fact, me and Nellie were arch enemies from I was no age because I was that cheeky. And every time she would catch us in there and she would run out, I would turn back and I would shout at her, Nellie the elephant, pack your trunk and go with the circus. It was wild bad. I couldn't have been more than about 4 or 6 years of age. I mean, I was certainly so young that I hadn't got a clue about bodies and how a girl's body might differ from a boy's body or anything like that, because that's how she got her revenge on me. Oh yeah. Bear with me. Now back then I had a wee pal called David. David was the same age as me. And his mammy had had a baby. And the baby was a boy. And one day we were round in her house and she was changing the baba's nappy. And in absolute dismay, I says, "What's that?" David's mammy laughed and she says, "That's his willy." but where's his tushy? Tushy. Now, I've no idea who came up with that particular colourful noun, but that was, well, widely used in my family. Now, David's mammy laughed and laughed and laughed, and she said, "He's a boy, he doesn't have a tushy." And then she told my mammy, and they both laughed and laughed and laughed, and me and David, we went outside to play in absolute disgust. When we got outside, I says to David, "Do you have a willy as well?" Like I'd uncovered some sort of grand betrayal. Anyway, in our totally innocent, clueless dismay and the curiosity of small children and the desire to figure out just what in the feck was going on in this world, me and David made a grave decision. Yep. So, there we were, sat out in the front steps of the flats, in full view of every home in the square, and I was showing David mine, and he was showing me his, and we were just happily chatting away about how weird it all was, and our wee minds completely blown, when out of nowhere we hears this roaring. It was Nellie hanging out of her window. I remember just staring at her, wondering what in the hell she was roaring about. And next thing, she's out of the house and down the path, and she's roaring at me, "I'm going to tell your mother right now, that is disgusting behaviour for a wee girl." I think it hit me and David both at once. That Nellie was raging because I had a tushy and he had a willy, and that must have been something to be raging about. Thing was, it was only my mammy that she went to. She didn't go to David's mammy. David didn't get in trouble, oh no. I got brought inside and my mammy was raging, and she said to me, "You don't show anybody that, especially not boys. That is not ladylike." And mammy told daddy and my granny and me Uncle Ray and Auntie Susie, and they were all a wee bit raging, and they all told me the exact same thing. That is not very ladylike. I was banned from playing with David then. Mammy didn't much like him after that, as if the Wayne was some sort of latent sex pest. And I knew that if Mammy had told all of those people that really embarrassing story, and Mammy actually liked me, then Nellie would have told the whole bloody street, you know. I don't know how long it went on for. My first experience of serious paranoia between the ages of 4 and 6 that would have rivaled even the worst of come-downs. Could have been a few days, or weeks, or months. But I remember feeling like every adult in the place knew, and every time they looked sideways at me, I imagined they were thinking, "There's your not very ladylike one, with the not very ladylike thing." And I didn't speak to them, chat away like my happy wee self after that. Anyway, after that I never dared sneak into Nellie's garden again. Next morning over breakfast, I turned to Jazz and I says to her, "Well, fancy that, Jazz. You were right. Shame. Absolute shame.
Hey, I'm Miranda. I'm very excited to participate in this festival where women are sharing poetic and poignant versions of their truth. So I'm going to share some versions of my own truth. It took me a long time to find my value, to understand who I was and not get lost in relationships. So I wrote this song when I was ready to stop being lost and ask somebody why. Why am I not good enough for you? Gotta go. Asked for your thoughts, but you wouldn't share. I laid down my heart for you, baby, but you left it laying there. And even my kisses, since they've lost their worth. And when I pull away from you, baby, you pull me back, it hurts. I gotta go, ooh, I gotta go, ooh, I gotta go. I can't stay here. Your arms around me, you leave me breathless, baby, but I've gotta leave. I can't be stuck loving you, no, not on my own. You're warm in my body, but you're leaving me cold. I am more than flesh and bone. I'm a whole woman walking out your door. I gotta go. I must leave this place. Hey, hey, I gotta go. I can't stay here. Took me a long time to learn my worth, and then when I finally got around to it, I started teaching other people how to learn their worth, to understand who they are and what their value is. So I started working with victims of domestic violence, and I wrote this next tune for them. Hey, come on. Don't let them find peace by standing on your neck. Don't
them feed their ego on disrespect. Don't let them crack the mirror of your self-regard. Line up your spine, get wise. Remember who you are, 'cause you are worthy. Beautiful imperfection, fools and liars, they want to steal your glow. Don't sacrifice your dignity for love. Na 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 na. Hey. Go ahead and live however the hell you want. Got a right to fly or fail, or not, or not, or not. You are free to be clever or wicked or bold. Never ever change a damn thing, oh no. You are in control, 'cause they're not worthy of your water or salt, your air or heartbeats, baby. Hey, remember who you are, who you are, who you are. Don't sacrifice your dignity for love. I know that I'm worthy, I'm worthy, worthy. Don't sacrifice your dignity. You're worthy, worthy. Tell liars you can't tarnish gold. Worthy, worthy. Don't sacrifice your dignity. You're worthy, 'cause they're not worthy of your water or salt, your air or heartbeats, baby. Hey, remember who you are, who you are, who you are. Don't sacrifice your dignity for love. Ooh, don't sacrifice your dignity for love. No, 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 no.